All right. Thank you for joining us for another Make Guitar podcast. Today is July 24th as we're recording this, and we're going to talk about the 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 Roman uh, the Roman Coppola movie CQ from 2001, and the music from that movie, and we're going to talk about some other things as well. But
Some guitar pedals,
yeah, we're going to talk about some
guitars,
guitar pedals,
and music.
yeah, and music and tone,
Yeah.
because that's that's what music channels on YouTube are for. We're talking about tone.
Yeah. Hey, how are you doing, Kirk?
I'm doing okay. To be fully honest, I have a little bit of a cold. I actually called in sick to a gig yesterday because um, I wasn't entirely sure that I didn't have COVID-19, but now I'm 100% sure. Well, according to the test, that I don't have um, COVID-19.
Oh, good. I'm happy to hear that.
Me too. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. My work is shutting down, so I'm maybe gonna either take some time off or look for a new job, or I don't know. So we'll see what happens there. But it could leave me more time to build some guitar pedals.
Well, that is a good thing. That's the silver lining. But yeah, losing
Yeah, right.
your job, having your job shut down is never
Yeah,
a good thing, just in
yeah.
itself.
Yeah, so work is shutting down. So they're selling a bunch of the office stuff. So I bought a couple chairs and some other just junk from the office.
That's good.
They had a 3D printer, so I bought the 3D printer.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And then they had some wire. I don't know. It was just like junk. Like this is just junk to the office. But I'm like, ooh,
Oh,
like
that's really
wire.
cool.
I totally want that. Give me the
That's a
wire.
really nice form factor for a wire box.
Yeah, yeah. And I bought some wire, but it was actually solid core wire, which is kind of, I don't know, I don't like it as much. This is actually the stranded wire, which is kind of better. So I was
Mhm.
actually really happy to get the wire. And then I got the
Oh, that's
printer and
great.
a bunch of the filament for the printer too, a couple spools of filament. So
Cool. So this is like more of a prototyping kind of printer. Like you're not going to be printing um I don't know, what could you print? Like, knobs for guitars, or, I guess you could do that. Um
that's a really good question. It's a 3D printer. It's kind of a budget one. I think they go for about like $300 or $400 new. I guess it's like a Creality Ender 3. It's pretty used though. It's kind of beat up. Like the students were all using it. So, but anyway, so I got kind of a deal on it. So I just got to see if I can get it to work now.
okay.
I haven't tried it out yet, but it seemed to work like the students were using it. So I had never used it though, but so anyway, so I got that, and then I built a couple guitar pedals and I got a couple projects going on here. So
Well, that's good.
I'm trying to hawk some pedals on Reverb. It could be my new
Yeah.
job.
Are you getting any action, any views?
No, I did get a guy contacted me about a pedal and then he was like, "Hey, would you sell that locally? Because I'm coming up to San Francisco." And then I was like, "Yeah, sure," but then he hasn't talked to me yet. So I was hoping I would sell that one, but that was like a week ago. So either
Yeah.
he changed his mind or just hasn't come to San Francisco yet. I don't know, but he didn't reply, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he better, he should make um his intentions known before he drives up, because
Yeah,
somebody
it's
else might
okay.
buy it.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm kind of getting a backlog of pedals at this point. Because I've just been building stuff. So, I had some circuit boards lying around.
Or you could also call it an inventory. I think that's what they call it in the
Inventory. Yeah,
in the
that's exactly
business.
what it is.
Yeah.
I got a back stock of yeah.
That's good. I have an inventory of guitars, but nothing that's like worth selling. So um
Yeah.
that's the tightrope that we all walk,
Yeah.
when
So
you
what
when
do you
you
what do you what do you
collect
been
gear.
what have you been working on?
Well, like I said, I've been sick. I have not been doing anything. I kind of drew out um, my pedal board plan. I started polishing. Um, I built this wiring harness for my Gretsch because I bought new pickups for it, and I was going to uh, put the put the wiring harness back in it so I could kind of troubleshoot it. And I just have to finish polishing it. I filled up my arbor with the polishing compound, so I had to get a new one. Um, and Yeah, so I'm going to finish that off, and I'm going to make a video about snaking the electronics back into the guitar using aquarium tubing, which I don't really think is necessary for the Gretsch because it's got like an access panel cut in the back aftermarket. But yeah,
That's
that's kind
funny.
of like
Somebody cut a hole in the back.
yeah,
They were just tired of like reaching through the F hole, so they, they cut a hole in it.
yeah. They just probably didn't see any other way. They're like, oh, they probably just put the back on after they wired it. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I always kind of wanted a 335, though I don't think I'll ever buy one just because, they're kind of expensive and I don't know, like, plus I already have a bunch of guitars. So like, last thing I need is like a new guitar, right? Though I like the 335. So
Yeah,
speaking of guitars that have hard wiring systems to install,
yeah. Well, the 335 is even more difficult because it
Oh
has a
yeah.
solid block running down the center. So,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
you can't even like put things in through the pickup cavities. Like on my Gretsch,
Yeah.
it's totally hollow, so I can just put everything in through pickup cavities. Um, and of course, this access panel in the back, and it also has a battery door. Um, yeah, I'll show
After
you.
the
It
kit.
has a battery door. Um, yeah, let me get it. All right. So yeah, this here,
Oh, weird.
this is the back. It's
Yeah.
hard to see because it's black, but
Yeah, I can see it.
yeah, that came with a little cover, which I can't see right now, but the cover had like a clamp that holds a 9-volt battery. Um, and I think that it was some kind of a preamp, some kind of a I don't know. I have to look it up to see what it actually did. But this is a Gretsch Rally, so that's the model, and it's rumored to have had some kind of little preamp in it.
Was that like from the factory it came with the preamp?
Yeah, I believe it was. Yeah, I mean, I it's been a long time since I've kind of looked this up, but I think I've heard about this onboard effect.
Oh, that's interesting because like I you don't picture Gretches having like active electronics, that's not
Yeah, I
a
know they're not
Gretsch thing.
like a Vox. Yeah, I'm gonna just quickly look up and see if I can see. It's a treble booster, an active. Sorry, I'm just browsing this thing. Onboard active treble booster switch. And apparently it wasn't very useful because the guitar also came with Hylotron um, single coil pickup, so it already was kind of trebly.
Huh, treble boost. So did it have a switch on the outside, like on the body to turn it on and off?
I'm guessing that instead of the mud switch, because a lot of these models have, they've got the pickup selector, and then this was usually some kind of a tone switch. And I think in this case, that's where the treble booster was switched on. So yeah,
Interesting.
a pretty weird guitar. So how about you? I know you're working on a bunch of things. Anything that you can talk about it, or is it all top secret at this point?
Yeah, totally secret, total secret, right? Well, you know what I did is I had a couple circuit boards still for this 22/7, which is like kind of a big muff, but it uses these CMOS hex inverters instead of the transistors. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of effects use the hex inverters, right? And they have a great, they're supposed to have a good tube-like sound, like the Blackstone Instruments or Blackstone Devices MOSFET overdrive is built on the hex inverters. The Way Huge Red Llama uses the hex inverters. The Way Huge Fat Sandwich uses them. And the what is it? There's a few other pedals that use them, and so they sound pretty good. So anyway, this is based on that, and I had another circuit board because I built a project for this on Osh Park, and so like when you order the boards, you got to buy like 3 boards, right?
Right.
So like I still had a couple boards left over, so I built that up, and then I built this UBE Screamer is another. It's like a tube screamer clone, but it uses the hex inverters in place of the transistor and op amp stages.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that. Do you have a demo of that on the channel?
I think I just made one the other day. This thing actually sounds great. So like, I think this is a cool pedal. Like it sounds good. It sounds as good as anybody's tube screamer, you know, and the tone control and the drive work pretty good, you know, and it sounds good when you roll off the volume control and stuff. So anyway, so I had these extra, I made an Osh Park project for this too. So I had a couple, like, again, you have to order 3 boards. So I made one version of the board and then I updated it and made another version. So I ended up with like 6 boards, right? So I just built up a couple of these. And then I had the same with this one, right? I built this up. And then I built this thing. It's a clone of the 1981 Devices DRV, right? Which is kind of like it's like a Proco Rat kind of, or a Distortion Plus or something, but it runs on 18 volts. So it's kind of like the Rat or Distortion Plus meets the Klon, you know? It sounds different from the Klon. It's kind of like if you thought of like the boost overdrive distortion as like a spectrum, you know, like a range. The boost overdrive is kind of like, you know, the Klon territory. And then where the Klon leaves off, like when it starts to get distorted, like the DRV picks up and goes from the, you know, the heavy overdrive distortion into the heavy distortion zone. though I would say that that they're voiced differently, you know, like the Klon is kind of like kind of more like low mid, kind of gravelly sounding, and the DRV is kind of like a tight higher mid, you know.
Okay.
You know, so like I guess like if you're talking voice, I would say that the Klon is kind of like Tom Waits, Waltz and Matilda, right? You know, right? And then the DRV is like David Lee Roth. You know?
Oh, okay.
You know, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, total sense, right?
Yeah.
You know, Panama, you know, I don't know, you know, like, you know,
your Tom Waits impression is better than your David Lee Roth impression.
Yeah, I can't sing. Yeah, so anyway, so I built one of these. This thing sounds dynamite, right? It sounds pretty good. Like I was pretty impressed with this, right? So I built one of those. I used the pedal PCB. So I just bought a piece. I bought 3 PCBs from Pedal PCB for this project, and so I built one of them. I'm gonna sell. I put this one on Reverb to sell, and then I took the second board and I put it inside this DS1. So this is a DS1 container, but I pulled out the DS1 PCB. I don't know if I have it here. I put it somewhere. I don't know where it is now, but yeah, I took that out of here, and then I put the pedal PCB. If you can see it better there, but I took this, like they call it the informant, right? But I took this informant board, which is like the DRV clone, right? And I put it in here. And then I got this other little board. It's like a switching board. It's got a relay, like it's an electronic switch.
Where do you get that one?
I got this from Mad Bean, right? From Mad Bean Pedals, right? They
Is it
sell a
made
bunch.
just for that? Just for that purpose?
No, you could put this into any project. So if you wanted to do electronic switching.
No, sorry, that's what I meant. It's made for any kind of electronic switching. Like that's.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd say the electronic switching, it works pretty good. It's got like a little tiny microcontroller. So they give you, the board costs $4 and it comes with a microcontroller. Right. So that's $4. And then you got to pay a couple bucks for this relay. And then you have to have like a little transistor and then one of these little 3-pin devices here. It's hard to see there, but there's a little 5-volt regulator because the microcontroller runs on 5 volts. But then the LED just connects to this board, and then your input and output connects to this board, and your power supply goes here. So, and it works pretty good, right? It's kind of got some cool features, right? So one thing, it's true bypass. So when the circuit is bypassed, the signal basically just goes through the input to the output through the relay. And the relay is just like an electronic, it's like a mechanical switch. It's not like a circuit,
Mm-hmm.
So inside this little box, there's like a couple little, I don't know, little tabs or something that move, right? You could actually hear them click. They make like a tiny little sound because you hear the little relay inside they're moving, right?
Okay.
But so it's pretty cool. It's true bypass. The relay is good for like 100,000 clicks, where like your typical your typical one of these kind of switches right here, like mechanical switches, these are good for like 30,000 clicks maybe at the most,
Okay.
right? So this would last longer, maybe 3 times as long,
Interesting. So that's probably the reason that Boss makes their pedals the way that they do, is so that they can use that type of switch and have the pedal be, give it a longer lifespan.
Okay, that's an interesting thing. Well, actually, the Boss pedals, they don't use a relay. They use an electronic switch. So your signal is actually going through some transistors and resistors, like for the switching mechanism, right? So they don't use a relay. So the thing about the Boss pedals is if the power goes off, your signal stops. It doesn't go through.
Right.
Right? If I understand correctly, right? The signal actually won't go through, right? It has to be on. What's interesting about this one is if the power goes off, it switches off and the signal goes through. So if your power ever dies to your pedal with this switch right here, then it's just bypassed. Like the effect is bypassed. So that's actually kind of an interesting feature almost, right? Because you're like, oh, great. If the pedal dies, then or my battery dies, then it's going to switch to bypass automatically.
Okay. So you've got you've got additional features on your pedal that nobody else has.
Maybe, I don't know. But, I just had this, I got on that, I built that Big Muff in the DS1, and then I was like, well, I'm going to do a couple more,
So I have a question about that board. Like, who would buy that if they weren't doing what you're doing? Like, what would you use it for other than what you're doing?
Well, you could put it in another effect. Like you could make this with a relay, right? So, like maybe you want like a more reliable switch. You want the feature where it bypasses if the battery dies. You could have that here, um, I don't know about the size of it. Let me find one here. Because I have another one in here.
Yeah, I'm just trying to picture another switch that you could tie into that.
Yeah, well, okay, so let me show you the way that you're really supposed to use this. So the way I'm using it is I'm using the Boss switch, which, like, here, let me get the light over here again, right? So inside here, there is a little button right here. You kind of see that guy?
Mhm.
Right? Like that's already built into the Boss pedal. So if I use this DS1 as my base, like I can just use this switch right here and that works. But if you wanted to make your own pedal and use this circuit board, right, you would use one of these, right? So I have a few right here. You'd use a switch like this, right? So this is actually a little bit smaller than that, than one of these, right? It's not about the same size, but it's a little bit smaller, a little bit narrower, right?
Okay.
Right. And the way that it would work with the circuit board right here is you kind of mount this switch like right here on top of the board, right? You just run the two wires like from these two tabs right here down to the board. And then the thing kind of like this would be your whole assembly that you put into your box,
Okay.
kind of in this arrangement right here. So it takes up a little more space. The cost is a little higher. It's possible, like there is a little bit of a switching sound. It's pretty subtle. It's like a little thump, but sometimes these switches can have kind of a click to them when you turn them on and off.
Right.
So I don't know. I think I think on this, like the sound is a little bit less, I don't know. That I'm not sure about. I haven't experimented with it enough.
Yeah. I mean, I think in any case, it's not going to be a big deal to have like a little clunk when you turn on your your overdrive, unless you're in, the quietest. If you're in that band Low from Duluth, Minnesota, then like maybe you'd be worried that people would hear your overdrive click on.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't experimented with it enough. So I'm going to try. I have a couple more of these boards. I bought like 4 of them. And then I have two more of another variety, like a different board. Same idea, though. It's got a relay. So I'm going to try those in a couple effects. Like I'll build something and put them in. So anyway, so I got that going, and I got this going here in the Boss pedal. I have another one that I'm going to do also. So I'll have a
Another
third one.
different effect.
Yeah. And I have another DS1 down here. Like this is like I'm just gonna have a pedal board that's gonna be all DS1s.
I think it's cool. Like JHS has that box of pedals that's all white.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Series 3 or something they called it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like having some uniformity. You do have to kind of just remember the order of your pedals, but wouldn't you do that anyways? Like you're in a lot of cases you're playing on kind of a dark stage, and your pedal chain is going to be the way you laid it out. So it doesn't really, you shouldn't have to use color coding to figure out which is what.
Yeah, maybe. I kind of thought like either I just borrow your label maker and just put a label on here,
Mm-hmm.
or I had some ideas to paint them. It seemed like a lot of work though, so I didn't want to do it. But maybe I'll go back and paint them. And I thought like, because it's got this rubber thing right here, I was thinking about what to do. You could peel that off and glue it back on, but that sounds like such a hassle. So I thought what I might do is just take some painter's tape and cover this with the painter's tape and then a spray can and just spray the whole thing. You know,
Okay.
the other thought I had is I could just change the knobs. So, I could just tell by what knobs were there.
Sure. Yeah.
Then the other thing is just having a pedal board of just DS1 enclosures, it's just all orange, right?
I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun project. You know, I got on this because of that Boss Tone Bender clone. Like they're the Boss Tone Bender collaboration. So they made a special edition Tone Bender and they went for like a lot of money, right? They were like $350 new, but then people were selling them for like $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 even on Reverb. And then I
Yeah,
thought,
it's kind of.
oh, go on.
I was just gonna say it's kind of funny how Boss pedals are, they're thought of as so kind of pedestrian, and they're not expensive really, but like they're they do seem to blow up in value because they discontinue pedals when they kind of feel like the market is saturated with that effect. When other people steal their ideas, they just move on.
Yeah. Yeah, right. But I thought about the Tone Bender and I was like, I'm never gonna buy the Tone Bender. It costs too much, right? You can't, they only made 3,000 of them. So what I was thinking is I'm just gonna make my own Tone Bender. That's gonna be the next one. But I'm gonna do it, it's gonna be a 3-knob Tone Bender. Theirs is a 2-knob one, but it's hard to get a 2-knob enclosure. And so I didn't
Right.
want to like, you know what I mean? I didn't want to like leave an empty one or like I guess you could try and buy like a CE2 or whatever, but those are really expensive. They're like over $100. So,
What's a CE2?
it's the chorus,
Oh, okay.
right? It's the chorus, but it just has 2 knobs, right? And so then I was like, yeah, I don't even want to ruin a CE2. I might keep it, right? And I don't want
Right.
to, I don't know. I just didn't want to pay it. But these are like the DS1 is like the cheapest Boss pedal. You can get it for about $40. So then I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I got to do the 3-knob effects. What 3-knob effects can fit in the DS1 thing? I could have an all
Yeah.
Boss pedal board.
Yeah. I like that they're all orange too. I mean, you have that one yellow one, but
Yeah, I got an SD one or whatever it is, or yeah, I think this is it right here. So I might build something in this. I might keep this one. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that'll turn into something else. Who knows? It's kind of a thing, like a lot of people mod the Boss pedals. So I was thinking that could be also a fun thing to do. And, other companies like JHS pedals and Keeley and Analog Man, they actually made a whole business out of modding Boss pedals like the SD1, the DS1, and the BD1, like the Blues Driver, right? So, so I might try modding the pedals too. That might be a fun project,
yeah. Yeah. Well, I look forward to hearing about your adventures in pedal modding. I would have no idea how to even get started with that, but
Oh, I don't think it's that hard. I was looking at it and the boards, especially for the DS1, the board is pretty small. I mean, like or I shouldn't say it's pretty small. It's not like it's actually the board is really big
right.
and then the parts are small, but they're kind of spaced out. They're like through hole parts. They're easy to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's actually pretty easy to mod this pedal. The SD one that I got right here, it has a bunch of like surface mount parts in it. This is like a new one. So this would be harder to mod, but this thing right here looks like it would be pretty easy to do. Yeah. Cool. So anyway, so that's this week's projects, I also,
yeah, it looks like you've been busy.
Yeah, I also built a, maybe I'll dig this out just for fun because it kind of came out pretty good. I built another, let me get the camera over here, right? So I built another one of these life pedals and I got this like, it's kind of like a textured, kind of like that industrial kind of black powder coat, but it's kind of rough, like sandy. Mm-hmm. So I got one of those enclosures, so it looked pretty good. And then I got some of these like kind of flying saucer knobs there,
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, so I built one of these. I'm gonna build another one too, because that one came out pretty good, you know.
So I know you couldn't put that into your mill to make labels for all the knobs. What do all those knobs do?
Oh, good question. So this is the boost. So when you hit this button here, the boost goes on, right? I think this one is the distortion knob. So it's like it's kind of like the drive. And this is the filter. So it's kind of like the tone control. So basically this pedal has a rat inside it.
Okay.
So this is like the rat controls, right? And then this right here is the volume knob, right? So it sets the volume. And then this one over here is the octave. So it mixes the octave with the distorted signal. But the octave, you turn it on with the middle switch. So if this is off, then this thing doesn't do anything, but you can mix how much octave you get. And then this thing up here is like a 4-position switch that chooses different clipping diodes.
Oh, interesting.
So the rat circuit uses diode clipping, and the 4-position switch here sets different diode clipping. So this circuit actually, it sounds pretty good. Like it sounds pretty amazing. And then this button right here is the bypass. So this bypasses the whole effect. This turns on the octave and that turns on the boost,
Okay.
So it sounds pretty good. And what's cool about it is you could experiment because the diode clipping is already set up. So it's got 4 different sets of diodes that you can choose from. And then you can that's actually like a common mod that people do is they play with the clipping diodes, like swap them out for different kinds of diodes or arrange the diodes in different ways.
Right. Well, are you happy with the arrangement of the diodes in that one? Do they feel like they're, kind of chromatic?
I think it sounds pretty good. Though, it has one of the settings is a pair of germanium diodes, and that one's like a lot quieter than the other settings.
Okay.
So that's kind of a little weird. I don't know. I could see like swapping those out maybe for some LEDs. It would be a lot louder.
hmm
You know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you know that, it's like you're not going to, be in the middle of a solo and switch diodes or something like that. Um,
Yeah, you're probably not going to reach down and turn that knob while you're playing. Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, you might accidentally, you would be reaching for the volume or the distortion knob or something like that, and you end up switching diodes. But
Yeah, I kind of had speaking of the controls, I know I don't have any labels on there. I was kind of thinking like, what if I took like a little metal plate, like something like this, and
yeah,
then milled the names on there and then stuck that on the box.
right. That's a good idea. Or you could like rivet them on there somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll do that, especially if I'm unemployed. So, I gotta have a lot of time,
Yeah,
you
that's a good
know,
plan. You've got projects.
I got projects. Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, those are the current projects right there, you know, yeah.
Oh, impressive. You're being very productive.
Yeah, I feel like I got a lot done last week, since work was shutting down, there wasn't a lot of work to do. I volunteered to do this thing. So like I had something to do every day, but I didn't have to work all day, you know.
Oh, that's good.
So I had to just go in the morning and work till about lunchtime. And then, there might be a meeting or something else after lunch, but it wasn't like a lot of work after lunch. So,
That's great. Well, you had time to watch the movie.
oh yeah. Yeah. What did you think about the movie? I thought it was pretty good.
I really enjoy that movie. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I was at Francis Ford Coppola's restaurant in North Beach
Oh
with some
yeah.
friends one night, and Francis Ford Coppola was there with his whole family. So his son Roman and his daughter Sophia were all there, and um, I was so excited about that movie. I had to send him, and I didn't want to go talk to him, like interrupt the family dinner, but I was like, you have to make another movie, and he did.
Oh, what was it?
Oh, I can't remember, but it was good. It wasn't as good as CQ in my opinion, but um,
What movie was it? What's the name? Do you remember?
I don't remember offhand. I'm gonna have to look it up. But yeah, so we've spilled the beans on this. We're going to be talking about the movie CQ, the letter C and the letter Q, from 2001, directed by Roman Coppola, starring Jeremy Davies and um, I'm going to just read it right off here. The cast of the movie: Angela Lindvall and Elodie Boucher. Uh, if you know those people, I think Angela Lindvall is a model primarily. I don't think she's made a ton of movies. Um,
She
oh,
played Valentine. Is that
yes,
right?
yeah,
Okay. Or Dragonfly,
yes, that's right. Yeah,
Agent
and
Dragonfly.
Gerard Depardieu is he has a role, as does Giancarlo Giannini.
Yeah.
Oh, and Jason Schwartzman, he's great in this as well. John Philip Law, I think it's his last film. John Philip Law is in it. Dean Stockwell is in it. He plays the main character's dad, and that's kind of, that's the highlights. Um, but yeah, before we move on, he has a the Darjeeling Limit. Oh, he produced that. Isle of Dogs. He wrote. Let's see. He's done a lot of shorts and commercials and videos, so it's hard to weed through this to the actual feature, but he did do another feature.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't realize Gerard Depardieu was in there, but when I realized like he was the original director of the movie,
That's right.
not the movie, but the movie within the movie that the story is about, right? Then I realized like, oh, I why I liked him because he's super French in the movie.
Yeah,
They got a real French guy to play the real French guy, which is really good.
yeah, and he does it in such, well, I don't know, like Gerard Depardieu. Um, he's he's kind of like the Fred Flintstone of French actors, or John Madden. He's like a big guy who throws his hands around, and until you see him in a English speaking role, um, well, it's hard to, I just didn't understand him the same way until I saw him in this movie. Like he's really well cast in this movie.
Oh yeah. I like when, there's a scene where, he steals the film,
Yeah.
you know, and then he runs off and then, Paul chases him down, and then corners him in like some subway or something. And then, they fight over the film and then they talk about it, they kind of talk through their issues and then, you know, he's going to give the film back to Paul, but he's like, in the film, there's a weapon, and then there's these revolutionaries that are going to steal this weapon, and like it's like a high-tech weapon that, and he's like, you must make sure that the revolutionaries get the weapon, because the revolution, like he's talking about the, you know, like so he's like, okay, well, because he was taken off the film, so but he's like, yeah, they're gonna ruin my art, because it's all about the art, but and then the story has to be that the revolutionaries get the win in the end.
Yeah. Well, you gotta have principles. And I
Yeah.
forgot to say Billy Zane. He plays the leader of the revolutionaries in the
Oh yeah,
movie.
yeah. He's
Yeah.
actually kind of good. He
Yeah.
doesn't, he's not in there too much, but he's pretty good.
Right. Well, his role in kind of like the real world, in the not in the movie, is very small. He's just um
Yeah.
doesn't he like he he goes racing off after a party and breaks his leg or something, or was that Jason Schwartzman who broke his leg?
Oh, I think that was Schwartzman, who was
That's
like, he was this American director, and they're going to bring him onto the film, and he's going to replace, I think Oliver or whoever it is was Gerard Depardieu, like he's going to replace him.
right.
And then he breaks his leg, but he's like this like smarmy kind of like, hey, what's up kind of guy.
I
Not
love
what's
the
up, but he's
his
kind of like
notes.
60s, like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. I like when he gives Jason Schwartzman his notes for the film, and they're just like fantastic, and like they're just like
dazzling.
dazzling.
It's like dazzling and fantastic. Like that's his notes. And they're thinking about like they got this problem. They're trying to figure out how to end the film. Like they need an
Mhm.
ending, you know?
Well, that's the hardest thing. Um,
Oh
and
yeah.
and I think Giancarlo Giannini, he puts this really well.
Yeah.
Um, like the audience, they want to be, they have this question: how is the movie going to end? So you build it up and make it them question how it's going to end, and then you tell them, but with a twist.
Yeah.
That's probably how like M. Night Shyamalan, you know, got his start. Like, yeah, they want to know what's going to happen, so you tell them, but with
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
twist.
We tell them. But the if I have to like say that there's one area of the film that I didn't like is I like the actor for Paul,
Mhm.
but his character, like he's the main character in the movie, and I just don't like him. And
Hmm.
it's not like you're meant not to like him. I think you're supposed to be sympathetic with him, but I'm just like he's such a milk toast and such kind of like a, you know, I don't know, he's so wishy-washy. I'm like, dude, wake up. You're like, and then he's like, he's living with his French girlfriend, but she's totally on it, like they do that scene where it's kind of hard to describe, but like he had just been editing the film, and Dragonfly, the actor for Dragonfly Valentine, she comes in and she records her voice over, right? And then
Hmm.
he asks her, he's like, "What do you wish for?" And she's like, "Oh, I wish cats could talk." She just says that. And then he goes home and he's trying to make this personal film, So he's going to film himself, and he's like, and he always does like dumb stuff. Like it's just so like, his films are, but I mean, they're kind of meant to be that, right? Right.
Hmm.
So he's going to sit down in front of the camera, and he's like, Marlene, you don't understand. Like, this has to be totally honest. So she hits the button on the camera and it starts recording. And then he's going to speak to the camera, but then she interrupts and she says, Paul, do you love me? And he's like, Marlene, but then he can't say it, right? He's
Hmm.
just like, yeah, Marlene, like, right? He can't say, no, I don't love you, or yeah, I do love you. He's just like so wishy-washy. And then she's like, Paul, what do you wish for? And he's like, I wish cats could talk. And then she immediately is like, that's what that American woman said. That's what she told you that. She knows, like, and Paul's like, no, he tries to deny it. He's such a like, I don't know. Like I tried to like I don't like the character. I mean, I like the actor. Like I think he does a good job because he mumbles all his lines, and like, he's like very much like he plays the part, but that character, like I'm just like, you're so wishy-washy, like
I think it is. It's a good character for an artist. Like an artist who's, he's kind of a tortured artist, and he's trying to find inspiration to, um, succeed in his life's goals. Um, and yeah, he's not a hero, and he's not like a dynamic character. Um, I guess I kind of relate to it in that way as somebody who hasn't, I'm not like a band leader. I'm not like a, like the kind of person who
goes to film school and wants to direct actors. Um, you know, it's he's no David Lee Roth. You know,
Yeah,
he's more of a, he's more of like a George Harrison, if you're
yeah,
like to put it into musical terms.
yeah. It's like the revolutionary E is kind of a David Lee Roth,
Yeah.
or that other guy Felix or whoever it is, the American director.
Oh yeah, Felix DeMarco.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
hit me,
and
baby. Yeah,
yeah, but it's like you wouldn't want to see a movie about that guy either, especially since he's made to be sort of unlikable in that movie. From
yeah,
the perspective of this kind of like um, tortured artist guy, Felix DeMarco is the enemy. He's like the guy who gets what he wants in life, but he doesn't have any talent or whatever to back it up. Um, yeah, so the other movie that Roman Coppola directed is it's called Charles Swan the Third, or A Glimpse Inside the Mind of Charles Swan the Third, and
huh?
Jason Schwartzman is in that movie as well. And so is Charlie Sheen and Bill Murray. I don't really remember what goes on, but maybe we can talk about that another time.
Yeah, maybe I'll go. I will watch that one sometime.
But as
You,
far
you
as
know,
I know, he's made Roman Coppola's made 2 features, and I think it might be that this movie CQ is a little bit, it's abstracted, but it's a little bit autobiographical. Like he's made a lot of commercials. He's the son of
hmm,
this huge, famous film director, but he hasn't made any, like he hasn't like made a ton of of Oscar winning feature films. He's made a bunch of videos. He's done a bunch of commercials. Um, he's a hardworking guy, but he's not like a Felix DeMarco.
huh? Well, you know how I feel about it. The thing that I thought the whole time through is, you ever read any uh Daniel Close? He did comics. He wrote Eight Ball. Like there's a whole series of comics
Okay.
called Eight Ball. There was a movie called Ghost World with
Oh, okay.
I think it had like a young Scarlett Johansson in it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, I
But that
remember
that
that
actually
comic.
Ghost World was a series in Eight Ball,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So it came from the comic, and they basically got Daniel Close to work on the film, but he wrote the story in the comic book. There's also another one called Art School Confidential, and
I've
that
seen that.
was a series in Eight Ball also, and that was Daniel
Okay.
Close.
Okay.
So to
Okay.
me, this the whole all of CQ is like a very Daniel Close story. It has a lot of the stuff like I would see in his comics.
Yeah, yeah. That fits now that you've mentioned it. Um, yeah, the character is kind of an observer
Yeah.
in the movie. Like he's not like the kind of protagonist that you have who's like causing things to happen. He's like directing the action. He's just kind of like caught in the in the current of what's happening in his life.
Yeah. Yeah, like that. There's a scene where he meets his dad.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about this too is like where I think that I don't like his character, right, is because he's dating this French girl. They live together. I mean, if you're living with someone, it's pretty serious, right? To point, right? And she's like, oh, like, because she cares about him and she's interested in his life. So she's like, oh, this is a postcard from your father. You didn't tell me your father was coming to visit. Why are you not taking me to meet your father? Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, well, Marley, and he mumbles, right? Some kind of response, but anyway, then he goes and he meets his father, and his father says, like, they talk, and then his dad says something like, Paul, I wasn't always faithful to your mom, and I was thinking, like, what if there was another person out there exactly like you had a brother, you know,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, and he says something that felt like very like a Daniel Close moment. And then like, especially because later in the film, Paul's in a car, it's New Year's Eve, they're in Italy, and he's with a bunch of weird people, they're all in the car, and then another car pulls up next to him, and he turns and he looks and he sees himself, except it's a guy with a mustache, but it's like him, like,
Yeah.
and that's like nothing ever happens with that, but that also felt like a very Daniel Close moment, where you just turn and there'd just be a panel where you looked in another car and you saw yourself, and then they drive off, and you're just left wondering like what happened there, like,
Yeah.
you know but that was the thing, just like where I'm disappointed in Paul, because he's dating Marlene, and then like like he and then actually too, he's such a milquetoast, and then he gets the other girl in the end.
Right.
They kind
Yeah,
of
but he's still not like a winner like in his career. Like there's that scene where the guy like he's like, "Oh, are you, Paul, blah blah blah," and he's like holding, oh, it's this woman, she's holding a screenplay.
Oh yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
could you give this to Felix DeMarco?"
Yeah. Yeah, that was very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my screenplay. Can you give it to Felix? Yeah, that's very funny. Yeah. Well, and then he calls up Marlene too. He's like, "Yeah, I called Marlene, but she hung up on me," at the very end, but then he's showing his personal film at this film festival, but it's all clips of her,
Yeah.
or most of it, like, I don't know,
But I think like, I mean, as much as I related to that, that character, and kind of enjoyed the story and the kind of like the three realities. I thought another part of the movie that I really liked was the music.
Oh yeah, the music
The
was
whole
great.
aesthetic was incredible, and like his choice of pop songs throughout the movie, like that you're talking about, that scene where it's New Year's Eve. It's like a groovy Jacques Dutronc song, from that era, from like the late '60s, and then the soundtrack itself um, was done by this band Mellow, which I had never heard of the band before seeing the movie. I kind of, after hearing it, I was sort of like, yeah, they're kind of like a poor man's Air, but um, that's a pretty groovy sound.
Yeah, the sound was pretty good. I like the music. I looked for it and I found a couple clips on YouTube. So I listened to the theme song and a couple other things. But I couldn't find the soundtrack.
Mm.
But I remember there's a few scenes in there too where, it's just like I don't know, like just something's happening, but then in the background there'll be like some kind of 60s guitar with a wah-wah,
Mhm.
or something like that. And it's kind of good, like it just kind of it has a good feel for getting like the music of that era. It's like a bunch of the like no-name bands from the 60s, kind of like you never heard the song, but it was written in 1964 or 65 or something.
Right.
I guess the movie takes place in 69, right? So maybe it's a little later, but
Yeah, yeah, but I think kind of music would last the duration. Um,
yeah. Yeah, so it was pretty good. They did pick up some good music, and then they kind of go through a gamut too. So there's kind of like this kind of, I don't know if you'd call it, not maybe not lo-fi, but kind of like mellow kind of, you know, acoustic guitar, but then they'll change to like kind of like a kind of upbeat kind of like 60s kind of like dance music with like organ, or
yeah,
kind of like Farfisa or something.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the sound of the band Mellow, I think that they do kind of run that gamut themselves, with from all of the kind of like instrumental music that's playing in the background. Um, I believe that's all them. I think there might be some additional sound design that's sort of like you know, uh kind of like science sounds, like the sound of analog synthesizers, like when they're showing the like the moon base or the car, that really cool Citroen
Oh
that they
yeah.
modified for the movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah, actually you're totally right. They had some really good little synthesizer kind of things in the background, like whenever like, something came up that was kind of like science fiction, it would have like that sample and hold, or something going
Yes,
on in
yeah.
the background.
Yeah, that's right. They actually travel to the moon, or butterfly or firefly actually travels
Dragonfly.
dragonfly.
Actually, did Dragonfly travel to the moon?
Uh
Or should we,
well, we've already spoiled
spoilers?
the ending and everything, but yeah, it was definitely kind of inspired by Barbarella, that whole like spaceship um
Oh
set
yeah.
that they built.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of the sets and things, I thought it was pretty good. I like their use of kind of 60s era special effects.
Hmm.
So there's probably some digital effects in there, but really the whole movie seemed to use like just regular effects. Like they had models and stuff and smoke and like I like there's a scene where he's just dropping ink into a fishbowl and they're
Hmm.
filming it, like to get some weird like fog effect or something. And they're probably going to combine that. Like, I forget what they called it, but when I was in art school, I had some friends that took filmmaking and they had a room with this machine. And essentially it was two projectors where you could project two films onto a screen and then film that.
Hmm.
And that was like, before digital, compositing, you would do it that way. It would be like an analog compositing. I forget what they called that thing. It had a name. I never took filmmaking, so
Yeah,
but
I
but
don't recall.
yeah, it's kind of like they used effects like that in the movie, which was pretty good.
Yeah, and I think that was really a tribute to the 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 way that they made the movie Barbarella. Uh, was that Roger
Are,
Vadim?
are we gonna cover Barbarella? We got to put that on our list.
Oh yeah, I think we do have to talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
actually,
some amazing sound design in that movie as well.
yeah, actually, we should totally do that one. But just while we're on the subject of the cars, that was actually one of my favorite things. Is like in every scene you were outdoors, there was always like a weird little goofy, like European car.
Yeah.
They just had like a lot of weird little cars, like little Italian cars, little French cars. Like I don't know where they got all these vehicles, but it was kind of cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, um, Europe had some really crazy little cars, like the one that where in that New Year's Eve scene where he gets in the back of the car. That's like this little tiny Fiat car, the Fiat 500. They basically reissue that, so you can get a little modern day version of that. But yeah, of course, the Citroen, the DS19, and the one that they modify for the movie. I think it's a Citroen uh, collaboration with uh, Maserati, I believe. Um,
That's the Dragonfly secret car or whatever.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. I like the ending to the film. I found a clip on YouTube where they strung together the Dragonfly movie and they just
Oh,
show the
okay.
movie. The thing is they don't do the whole film, they just do like the second half. So when she comes back from the moon and lands on the top of the Eiffel Tower, like it
Hmm.
just starts there. I guess they didn't have enough footage to do the first half of the film.
Oh, I'd like to watch that.
It was kind of fun because it just follows the whole thing through where she lands on the Eiffel Tower and then she's got the weapon. It was kind of good. I like that. I like the way they ended it because it explains like why the weapon doesn't work on her.
Hmm.
Right. And the revolutionaries get the gun in the end. So, you know, So, Oliver was happy,
Yes, but I don't think we see him again. I don't recall. But
No, I don't think he shows up again after he gets the film back, but anyway, he would have been happy,
yeah.
you know. Yes, so let me ask you this though. So what else, what are you gonna do next week? What are you working on?
Well, I like I said, I'm going to um put the Gretsch back together. I've been saying that for like a month now, so I'm gonna finally do it. Um, and I'm going to actually put together my pedal board. I got my phaser should be here right now, um, so I'm gonna try to incorporate that into my sound. I don't have anything as grand as building pedals on my list for this week, but that's what I got.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That sounds pretty good. Maybe I'm gonna rebuild my pedal board. Maybe I'll do that. We can have a pedal board discussion.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that offline. We'll maybe figure that out when that can happen.
All right.
But I got to redo my pedal board, so I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to box up this DS1 and write a blog post about it and demo it, and then I have that other DS1, so I'm going to try and put the tone bender in the other DS1. So that's my third DS1 mod,
Yeah.
like rehousing,
And you'll be completing the circle because that was really your inspiration for this whole project of rehousing or of making boss pedals into your.
Yeah, I should have done that one first. The other thing too is I think I might modify that DS1 Big Muff I had. I didn't like it sounds okay, but I don't like the way the tone control works. And I built it from the Green Russian spec, but it's kind of got too much bass. But I like when I did this 22/7, I like the tone control on this one. So I think I might modify that other one so it has the same values for the tone circuit and see if that kind of makes it sound a little better or a little more to my liking.
Cool. Yeah.
So there we got that. That's the projects for this week, right? I got some circuit boards here, but I'm waiting on some. I'm gonna build. I got these big giant circuit boards here, so this is gonna be
Wow.
another project. But I don't have any enclosures. Like I need a couple more boxes. I bought a few more of these, but they're shipping, so I'm waiting for like this size enclosure. So I'm waiting for them to show up.
Okay. Should we ask our viewers to guess what that pedal is going to be based
No,
on that circuit board?
they could, I
Yeah.
guess.
If
I'll
you
just
have a
tell
if
them.
you have a guess, there's no prize, but like put it in the comments.
Here,
What do
we'll
you think
show it
this
again.
pedal is going to be based on that configuration?
Yeah. You could probably zoom in on it and maybe figure it out. I don't know if it says on the board. I just bought these boards, so um, it's like there's a couple companies that just make really good circuit boards for pedals. So it's like, you could design your own pedal and spend a lot of time, or you could just, buy a pre-built board that's really well made. So that's what I do every time because it's just cheaper and easier, faster.
Yeah. Well, you have your own circuit boards made.
Yeah, I did my own project. So if there's something like you can't buy or something that I feel like doing myself, I do it.
Yeah, that seems like a
Yeah.
good mode.
Yeah, this one was pretty complicated. So I wasn't gonna do this myself. It was too hard. Plus, like, yeah, it was just like too much work. Plus
Yeah.
I saw it and then it was on sale. I was like, oh man, I'll just buy a couple boards on sale.
Yeah, and if there's nothing that you need to change that you can't change once you get the circuit board, then why even bother?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
So, are you listening to anything this week?
Oh, I didn't listen to anything new. You know what I did? Actually, you know what I listened to is I listened to some Beach House on your recommendation.
Oh, okay. Which albums, if I may ask?
I think I listened to your something. Let me look it up here. I just had it over here. I listened to Depression Cherry.
Oh, I like that one. That's a really good one.
and Thank Your Lucky Stars.
Oh, okay. I, I probably need to go and look at that one.
I was just looking on Bandcamp, so I just picked out some random albums there and listened
Okay.
to them. They're pretty good. It's good ambient music. I was just cleaning up and in the room down here, and I had it on.
Yeah. Well, it's it can also be defined as dream pop,
Yeah,
depending on how you do it.
yeah.
Um,
It had a lot of like actually drone-like qualities. It could almost fall into the drone camp for
yeah.
some things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think like drone, besides just being like a constant note, it can also be like a repeated melody, right? Where it just goes forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they have a lot of that. Like they'll have a melody that just kind of runs all the way through.
Yes.
They're kind of
Yeah.
interesting. Like rather than like for the dream pop kind of thing, or shoegaze, like they're not so much like distorted electric guitars.
Right. Yeah. It's really clean.
Yeah, yeah.
And that guy, he plays a lot of slide. Um, I don't know if he's doing like open tunings or what, but it's really not even about that. It's sort of like it's really a two-person band. It's like I don't think they had a drum like a human drummer when I saw them.
Hmm.
I think it was just the two of them, but they make a lot of sound.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They got some synth in there and some guitars and like but the guitars kind of take a back seat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know that much about how their creative process works, but I kind of feel like it's her, she comes up with the songs and she plays keyboards. So um that's kind of like that's the vibe. And then he makes his contribution, and
Nice.
that's how
So
they do it.
what were you listening to this week?
Well, Alton Gunn sent me an email through Bandcamp, and they have a new album. Uh, I don't recall the name, but it was, it's they're very consistent in their sound, but I think this new one has a lot of like it like the first song on the album made me think of "We Are the Robots" by Kraftwerk. Really synthy.
Oh,
Um, of
huh.
course, they have the full instrumentation of the band, but it's really um, uh, it's a really kind of like a tight um, synthesized sound on this album.
Oh, cool. I'll have to listen to that. That sounds kind of like a cool, evolution for them.
Yeah, because on their last one, I kind of felt like they were sounding a little bit more traditional, like Turkish psych rock.
Yeah,
And so on this one, uh, it's a little bit of a change.
nice. Okay, cool. Should we call it a wrap?
Yeah, I think we've covered what we've got. So
Okay.
um, yeah, we'll do more in the next one.
Okay. So we'll
All right.
sign off. See everybody later.
Thanks for watching. Live long and prosper.
Yeah.